It all began innocently enough, as most of these stories do. A shared secret, a glance across the room. A knowing smile that spoke volumes more than words ever could. My aunt by marriage, Sarah, had always been an enigma to me. She was married to my uncle, but there was never any love between them. They lived their lives in separate bedrooms and as far apart from each other as possible. Sarah was beautiful, still is, but her eyes had grown dim with sadness over the years. I could see it every time I visited. One day, she asked if we could talk in private. I agreed, curious about what she might have to say. We sat in the sunroom at the back of the house, surrounded by pots of flowers and a feeling of tranquility. She looked nervous as she fidgeted with her hands on her lap. "Shane," she said softly, "there's something I need to tell you." I nodded for her to continue. "I've been unfaithful," she confessed. The revelation caught me off guard. My mind raced with questions: who? When? Why? "Please don't be angry," she continued, "but I just couldn't go on living in that loveless marriage." I assured her that I wasn't angry, just surprised. She went on to explain that it had started a few months ago, a chance encounter at the grocery store with a man who made her feel desired again. As she spoke, I noticed a spark in her eyes that hadn't been there before, a fire that had been reignited after years of being suppressed. "And now," she said with a mix of fear and excitement, "he wants to take our relationship further." I knew immediately what she was asking of me. She needed my advice, my approval. "What do you want?" I asked gently. She looked at me for a long moment, as if trying to decide how much she could trust me. Finally, she spoke. "I want to be with him," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "But I'm scared of what might happen if my husband finds out." I could see the conflict in her eyes, the desire to follow her heart, but also the fear of the consequences. We talked for hours that day, discussing the pros and cons of pursuing this new relationship. In the end, I told her that she had to do what felt right for her, regardless of what anyone else might think or say. As the days turned into weeks, Sarah and I found ourselves drawn to each other more and more. We shared a bond over our mutual dissatisfaction with our partners, a connection that was both comforting and exhilarating. And so it began. Our secret affair, a stolen kiss here, a lingering touch there. Each moment was filled with a sense of urgency and longing, a hunger that could never be fully satisfied. I became addicted to the taste of her lips, the feel of her skin against mine. She awakened something inside me, an insatiable desire that burned hotter with each passing day. We made love in hidden corners of the house, in whispered words and stolen glances. Each encounter was like a drug, intoxicating us both with its forbidden passion. But as with any addiction, there are consequences, and ours came crashing down around us one fateful afternoon when my uncle unexpectedly came home early from work. Panic set in as we scrambled to put ourselves back together, to hide the evidence of our indiscretions. But it was too late, he had already seen too much. The look on his face was a mix of anger and betrayal, a wounded animal lashing out in pain. He screamed at us, cursed us, shattered everything in his path like a raging storm. Sarah tried to calm him down, to explain that this was her fault, not mine, but he wouldn't listen. He grabbed me by the collar and threw me out of the house, slamming the door behind me. I sat on the front steps in a daze, my mind reeling from the shock of what had just happened. I felt a mix of guilt and shame that threatened to consume me whole. After what seemed like an eternity, Sarah finally emerged from the house, a shadow of her former self. She walked slowly towards me, her eyes filled with sorrow. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I never wanted this to happen. I reached out to touch her hand, but she pulled away, afraid of what might still be lurking in the darkness. We can't go back, she said sadly. But maybe, just maybe, we can find a way to move forward. And so we did. Somehow, some way, we found a way to pick up the shattered pieces of our lives and begin again. It wasn't easy, not by any stretch of the imagination, but we learned to lean on each other for support, for strength, for love. And as time went on, that love grew stronger, deeper than either of us ever thought possible. We built a life together, a home filled with laughter and joy, with forgiveness and redemption. It all began innocently enough, as most affairs do, but ours was different, special somehow. Perhaps it was because we were never really looking for each other, it just sort of happened that way. Two lost souls finding solace in each other's arms, a sanctuary in a world gone mad. Or maybe, just maybe, it was destiny, the universe conspiring to bring us together against all odds, to show us that sometimes, even in the darkest moments, there is still hope for a brighter tomorrow.